According to an article dated April 15th, 2004 from CNN, sometime between 1991 and 2001, a regional sector of the North American Aerospace Defense Command simulated a foreign hijacked airliner crashing into a building in the United States as part of a training exercise scenario. The exercise was solely to test procedures and was no indication that NORAD had any reason to believe that such a scenario would happen in the real world, according to the spokesman. It is unclear whether the simulated scenario was that of a hijacked plane being used as a missile, intentionally crashing into a building, or that of an out-of-control hijacked plane. Military officials said the exercise involved simulating a crash into a building that would be recognizable if identified, but was not the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. They emphasized it involved an airliner being hijacked as it flew into U.S. airspace from abroad, a slightly different scenario from what happened on September 11, 2001. The identity of the building named in the exercise is classified. The exercise was conducted at one regional sector and was not conducted at the headquarters as our major exercises. This sector exercise involves some flying of military aircraft, as well as a command post exercise in which communication procedures were practiced in an office environment. NORAD officials emphasized that it had been a real event. NORAD would have instituted standard procedures to fly or to try to contact the aircraft and keep it from crashing. Ralph Eberhardt, commander of NORAD, would say, quote, "We have planned and executed numerous scenarios over the years to include aircraft originating from foreign airports penetrating our sovereign airspace. Regrettably, the tragic events of 9/11 were never anticipated or exercised," end quote. NORAD had the ongoing mission of defense of U.S. airspace. According to a statement from NORAD, quote, "Before September 11, 2001, NORAD regularly conducted a variety of exercises that included hijack scenarios. These exercises tested track detection and identification, scramble and interception, hijack procedures, internal and external agency coordination and operational security, and communications security procedures. All of those tasks are the responsibility of NORAD." The statement would go on to continue, "NORAD did not plan and execute these types of exercises because we thought the scenarios were probable. These exercises were artificial stimulations that provided us the opportunity to test and validate our processes and rules of engagement with the appropriate coordination between NORAD's command headquarters, its subordinate regions, and sectors and national command authorities in Canada and the United States." However, according to an article by Aviation Week, on September 11, 2001, by 9:26 a.m., the FAA Command Center stopped all departures nationwide. At 9:41 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, elevating tension levels even further. NEAD Senior Airman Stacia Roundtree, an identification technician, said, quote, "We had 3 aircraft down and the possibility of others hijacked. We had to think outside the box, making up procedures on the fly. Before the day ended, 21 aircraft across the United States had been handled as tracks of interest," end quote. Lieutenant Colonel William E. Glover, who was the Air Force Lieutenant Colonel in charge of NORAD, would go on to say, quote, "We didn't know how many more there were. Were there 5, 6? The only way we could tell was to implement SCATANA and sanitize the airspace, get everybody down," end quote. So what is SCATANA? SCATANA is the plan for the security control of the air traffic and air navigation aids. It is an emergency preparedness plan of the United States which prescribes the joint action to be taken by appropriate elements of the Department of Defense, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Federal Communications Commission in the interest of national security in order to effectively control air traffic and air navigation aids under emergency conditions. On its use on September 11, 2001, SCATANA had been implemented once since its inception, and even then, it was a modified version. The code word was broadcast ordering that all U.S. aircraft be grounded after the September 11 attacks. Even in that instance, the emergency plan was only partially implemented by the Defense Department left command and control of the air traffic system with the Federal Aviation Administration and intentionally allowed all radio navigational aids to remain in operation to aid in the process of controlling and landing the thousands of planes which were aloft in domestic airspace. The 9/11 Commission report never refers to SCATANA directly, but it does discuss the unprecedented order and commands of the air traffic controllers who carried it out. Would the planes have been intercepted in time had NORAD been aware of the information? Could they have at least shut down Flight 77 in time had they had the information proper and on time? According to NORAD, they said this.
I understand your testimony. It was not possible to shoot down any of these aircraft before they struck. Is that basically correct?
That is correct. In fact, the American Airlines 77, if we were to have arrived overhead at that particular point, I don't think that we would have shot that aircraft down.
Because?
Well, we had not been given authority to shoot
You
that
didn't have
aircraft.
authority at that point.
And, you know, it is through hindsight that we are certain that this was a coordinated attack upon the United States.
But had you gotten scrambled earlier, notified earlier of 77's deviance about when it turned east, for instance, certainly you could have got the F-16s there, and presumably there would have been time to communicate to either get or be denied authority, no? For 77.
I believe that to be true. I believe that to be true. It had to happen very fast, but I believe that to be true.
What efforts were made that day to contact the president to seek that authority?
I do not know.